Welcome to the Faith to You podcast. I'm Pastor Caleb Schroeder, and I'm here with Kevin Rogers, and we're continuing to talk about what it means to live all of life all for the glory of God. And what I want to do is I want to sort of turn the tables. But we're not going to literally turn the table over because that would ruin our microphone. But we're going to switch interview and interviewee, right? So I'm going to be the interviewer. You're going to be my interviewee. And you just now graduated from Masters University. So awesome choice on university, by the way.
I agree.
Good job. I'm a master's grad also, although I did it for graduate school, so it all counts. My wife has her undergraduate from Masters. We love the Masters University, but it's not a panacea. Going to the Masters University, it's not this magic pill that solves everything. So you went to Masters, and so now you're a good Christian, and everything's going to be hunky-dory. No. And I'm sure that you saw people at Masters where you're like, wow, I hope they find Jesus.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Many who either got saved during their time there or have walked away or hopefully will one day find Jesus. There's a lot of that there. No place is perfect.
Institutions don't save. Jesus saves. And what I love about Masters is this thing that we're talking about. That's their passion. They want their students to understand like what you're doing is you're living for the glory of God. And so what I want to talk to you today about is what does that look like for a student? So I talked about what it looks like for a husband, as a father, as a school teacher. But what does it look like for a student? So for you, Kevin, last 4 years at Masters?
Yep. Okay,
last 4 years at Masters. What did it look like for you as a student to live all of life for the glory of God?
I mean, let's be technical. It was 3.5 years, but whatever. So you talked about kind of as teacher, as pastor, as father and stuff. I'm obviously none of those. So as a student, I'd say to start out with, the first thing you have to do if you're going to do everything for the glory of God is be sober-minded. Be thinking. Stop and think. People go to school and they go there to party, or they go there to have fun, or get the experience, as people call it. And college is fun. It is an experience. It's a time. But just going there for that and not having, why am I here? What am I doing for God? And what steps am I taking to accomplish that? Long-term, short-term, what am I doing for Christ? And what am I preparing myself to do for Christ? So going into college, and when you're a student, having a purpose, whether that's middle school, high school, college, why am I taking these classes? Why am I hanging out with these people? Why am I doing whatever? And starting that out. And then one way to do all things for the glory of God would be, you're a student. Your job is school. And you mentioned when you're working, you are the best worker you could be. Be the best student you could be. Don't be the guy that stays up till 2 a.m. partying with his friends and gets D's in all his classes. You're going to be the one running for top honors. And by God's grace, I was able to be top honors in my class. But I set a tone very early. Academics came first. I will do the best I can in these jobs, in every class, every subject. I don't go play with everyone until I have done my duty. After all, I'm paying way too much money to just frivolously waste my time. And then, secondly, I worked in college. I started out working for the intramurals program, all the different sports and stuff, setting those up and running them. And then about a year in, I switched to working at Hobby Lobby. And that took a lot of time, but then it became, okay, I am the master's guy working at Hobby Lobby, and I'm the Christian there. The Hobby Lobby is a Christian institution, but most of the people that work there are not Christians. And so they're looking at me, and I'm representing my school, my church, and my Lord. And that's a high bar to set. Am I going to be the lazy worker, or am I going to be the best? And so I set the tone. I was the best stockman. I was the best at closing. I was the most timely, and set all these things so that they knew, wow, we want to hire master's grads. And it got to the point where I could just tell my boss, hey, you should hire this person. They're from Masters. And he'd be like, well, if they're like you, yes. And then they'd hire him. And that's a testimony, a witness. And then, because I worked with so many unsafe coworkers, always being ready to have an answer to anyone that asks you for the hope that you have. Being prepared to share the gospel in my work. And then at Masters, it's a rich spiritual. I mean, we do 3 chapels a week. We have some of the most dynamic speakers in the world coming in. You got Vodi Bakum, Paul Washer, John MacArthur, all of them. And it's and then of course the Bible classes are, so good. You got like Abner Chow and Varner and Halstead. Great guys, great wise men. And you're learning and learning and learning and learning so much, but it becomes very easy to neglect your own spiritual walk, your own spiritual disciplines. So one thing, doing everything for the glory of God as a student, is making sure you're in the Word, you're in prayer, when you're with friends, investing in them, fellowshipping, not neglecting your own growth just because you're sitting in a culture that helps you grow. But that's the thing, it helps you grow, it is not the growth itself. You have to still be the proactive one. And that's why a lot of master's students struggle once they leave, is because they haven't developed the habits and the practices of being in the Word, of growing, of leading others to Christ or with Christ. And then they graduate, and all of a sudden all that's gone, and then they just keep not reading the Word, not praying, not anything, and next thing you know, they're out in left field, and they ask, how did I get here? Well, because you didn't set up the disciplines as a student, and now you've dug a hole and you have to dig yourself out of it.
So that reminds me of this concept that I've noticed in the world. A lot of times students who are slaves to the grade become slaves to the wage. And what I mean by that is those students who are there and they're like trying to constantly get the A. They're trying to be the absolute top of their class. They go into the workforce and they fall into the same trap of, I want to get the promotion, I want to get the higher wage, and they're living all of life now as slaves of man. And so there is this thing like grades they're a dangerous idol, because they can tempt us to judge ourselves based on our professor's view of us, right? Like, okay, I'm doing well spiritually because I got an A in OT survey, right? So like, I'm doing great spiritually. So how did you guard your heart against becoming a grade slave, like grade becoming the measure of your spirituality?
So you mentioned in the last episode, do all things for the glory of God, not for men.
Yeah.
That becomes the key to it. Am I doing this grade to get the honors or get the promotion at work or to make myself look good to the professors or to that cute girl over the row next to me, whatever?
Yeah.
That's doing it for men. That's not doing it for God.
Yeah.
I do the best I can because I want to please my God. And if the best I can is a B, if the best I can is a C, then it's a B or a C. But if the best I can is top of the class, then I better be getting that.
Yeah.
And again, you also mentioned balance. Sometimes if, let's say I've got a lot of homework, but a guy comes into my room late at night, he's like, dude, I've got this issue, maybe a friend just died, or I've got this sin problem I'm struggling with, we need to talk. We're throwing the homework out the window. We're dealing with the guy.
Yeah.
There is a balance, but no matter whatever's thrown at me, I'm doing it for the glory of God. And so I'm not idolizing the grades. The grades are just a symptom of living my life for the glory of God.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One of the blessings I had, my parents didn't really use grades. And so like until I got to college, I had never been graded before. I didn't even know like you're supposed to check your grades or things like that until I'd been in school for actually a couple of semesters.
Wow.
My counselor is actually the first one who told me like how to find my transcript and look at my grades. Because I was just like, I went to school to learn things. That's why I was there.
Yep.
And you actually go to school to learn things. Guess what? You get good grades.
Yep.
But because I realized, okay, what's the purpose of this? And so that's part of what you're talking about. Like being sober-minded means in the class, your focus is on, I want to learn this so I can equip myself to be the best student I can be, to be the best worker in the future I can be for the glory of God. And so the grade isn't the measure of that. The wage isn't the measure of that. The measure of it is before your master, you're standing. Yep. And how does he look at what you're doing? So what's so important is that whatever you do, you're doing it heartily as unto the Lord. And a lot of people, they don't stop and think. They're not sober-minded. So I love that you talked about that, because they don't stop and think like, why am I learning all of this history? Well, there's a reason, because if you don't learn from it, we're bound to repeat it, right? Why are you learning all this mathematics? Well, because you need to learn how to reason. You need to learn how to think logically.
It's the language of God.
Yeah, and what people do, they're like, I'm never going to need to know the names of all these kings, or I'm never going to need to know the quadratic formula, but there's a purpose. And so you're always in academics, you're thinking about what's the purpose behind this, and then how does that glorify God? How do I learn this subject to glorify God? So you talked about your balance between just your own like personal devotions and your like assignments in your classes. Like, walk me through that. What was your like just your own personal devotion life like as a student when you're at Masters?
So again, I'm talking about doing grades and stuff for the glory of God, spending a lot of time with that, but you have to carve out time for your personal walk with the Lord, or the rest of it is meaningless.
Yeah.
Again, that balance thing. And that starts with, well, I set a system. I always set aside time in the morning, so I'd always get up a little bit earlier. I didn't sleep in till like 1 o'clock in the afternoon. I would always get up an hour, 2 hours before my first class would start. And thankfully I didn't have some early morning classes. Mine were always like mid-afternoon, which was nice. So I would have time to get up, get ready, and then I would go down to the cafeteria, eat a nice big breakfast, and do my devotions there. And before that, I would be praying in the morning before I even got out of bed. I'd usually spend 15 to 30 minutes praying. And then I had a little journal that I would read in the dark room. Probably is why I need glasses now. But where I would pray through all that, and then I would go and do devotions. And I was never rushed or anything. I'd have an hour to just be with the Lord, to do whatever I needed to do. And so being intentional, again, sober-minded, when you go into Masters or any college, set time aside to be with the Lord, and don't let anything encroach upon that time.
Yeah. I love the way Corrie ten Boom says it. She says, make an appointment with the Lord and keep it. And so you just put it in. I call it, in my life, I say it's a built-in no in my schedule. It's so easy for my calendar as a pastor to fill up, where it's like every single minute of every single day is scheduled.
And so, it can be all good things that you're scheduling.
Yeah. Like, I mean, sometimes it's like there's this person in this crisis and this person in this crisis. And I mean, like, as a pastor, you're constantly facing numerous crises that people are going through. But if I don't actually take time to be alone with the Lord, I'm not going to bring anything to the table, you know? And so I schedule those times. I build in those notes. I schedule those times with my family too. So I get one-on-one time with my kids. I get one-on-one time with my wife every single week. And I don't give that time away. I don't give that time away to anyone. I actually schedule an entire day every single week where nobody's allowed to interrupt me. Because I need extended time. As a pastor, I need extended time with the Lord. It's different for different people. And the key is figuring out, what does it look like for you in your walk of life to glorify God? So I hope you're thinking about this. So this series, as it goes on, we're going to be interviewing other people, different walks of life. How do they find this balance of living all of life for the glory of God in what they're doing? So whether you're a school teacher, a pastor, or a student, there's different places that you're trying to figure out, how do I glorify God here? The key is, ask that question, ask the people around you to help you, and make sure you're spending time with your Savior every single day. Thank you so much for listening.
God bless.